Oh, yeah. Hmm. Wow. Hi, Daniel.
Hey, how's everybody?
Everybody. That's you and me.
Oh, Michael might have had some trouble from all the rain. I had my computer drop on me once this morning. Maybe he's having those kind of problems.
Huh.
Uh, I almost thought that I wasn't going to be able to connect today, but then it came right back.
Good.
Uh, yeah, we're having lots and lots of rain and wind, stormy wind and stuff. So
I
yeah.
guess that's
Anyway, what's that?
supposed to come our way about Thursday.
A hurricane?
No, rain.
Oh, rain. Yeah. Yeah. Has it been hot in your area? What's the weather been like?
Yeah, it's been high 80s.
Yeah, for Portland, that's pretty summery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and our weather has been a lot of in the 90s. Sometimes we had a couple days in the 80s, but mainly in the 90s. But the thing is, sometimes we've gotten a little rain when at nighttime, but not enough to really cool things off. But what I like about this rainstorm today is that it actually feels cooler.
Good.
Good.
Yeah, we were like in the 90s, low 90s last week, pretty much all last week.
Yeah, that's what we've been running for almost all of July and beginning of
Mm.
August. It's just I don't do well. I'm not as energetic when it comes to really hot weather. I do less on a day. Maybe that's just an excuse.
I pretty much stay inside. I've been down, but I always go for a walk early in the morning when it's cool.
Yeah, I like that morning walk. Except it's my best time to do a little things that were left over from yesterday, whether there's cleaning or sweeping the floors or putting there. It's my most alert time. So
This
when I
morning
wake up, hmm?
I got up around 4 this morning, and I had time to do a lesson in my census training. Be-
Oh, okay, how's that going?
Oh, it's grueling. I think just doing one lesson at a time and then taking a break and doing something fun is better.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty dry stuff.
Oh, good.
What are they making? What do they want you to do on this census job? Have you figured that out yet?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, these are, I'm going to go around and talk to people who fail to submit their census data in the mail.
Are you going to actually interview them, or just
Yeah,
have them answer a question, or what? What are you exactly are you doing?
I'm interviewing them.
Oh, that's an interesting job
Right.
interviewing them.
Yeah, I thought it would be. I think it will be.
Yeah, that's much more interesting than just finding out who lives if you do a full interview. Like
Yeah. In
all.
some cases, I just have to verify the address because it doesn't show up in their records. But and so that's real pretty simple. But um, I'll be doing a lot of interviewing.
Yeah, I think when I did one of the times I remember I was doing the same thing you were doing not so long ago, and it seemed to me it was rather an abridged census interview where they had like
Yeah, it's been
fewer
like that
questions.
since 2000. It's been pretty abridged. So
Yeah, I can.
this year they're giving us all iPhone 8s and all the software. So we just do everything on the phone. It gives us the questions and everything, and as we enter it into the phone, it's entered into the system. We just have to,
Oh, yeah, the modern age. I
yeah,
did it with pencil and questions spelled out, and checking
yeah,
off
so
your answers. I think it
yeah,
was
to
mainly
keep things
multiple
simple.
choice.
It's very, it looks very thorough. So
Mhm.
that's all the kind of stuff that I'm having to learn in these online modules, so that I'll be ready to hit the ground running.
Yeah, yeah, it's very similar to the past, but also very different too.
Uh-huh.
It's like everything. The more the change, the more the same.
I'm pretty impressed with how well organized they are. Seem to
Yeah,
be. Mhm.
Census Bureau has been good, and people really need to realize it's definitely in their self-interest to fill it out, and the retrograde forces in the country like to discourage people because from filling out the census because that way less money has to be spent on social needs and people get scared because especially Latinos that they're going to be deported if they cooperate with the government and
Yeah.
it's even though you reassure them 50 times, well, I'm exaggerating, that none of all this information is confidential. They're still totally worried that the census information and the personal responses they give is going to be used against them by the government.
Oh yeah, and especially these days when every other person is involved in conspiracy theories.
Yes, it's amazing. In fact, that's one of the reasons I had to actually stop reading about coronavirus because it, I yeah, look, even I'm somebody who's somewhat educated in the field, and I sometimes just can't distinguish whether this is malarkey or really right on. It's so
Yeah. Mhm.
I decided it was was not worth having an opinion about.
Yeah,
And
really.
basically, I already know what I want to do. I'm going to wear a mask, comply with what's being asked, and and vote for a change in government because I don't trust the people who are running it. So that's
Yeah.
basically it. What more do I have to know?
Yeah, really. And that frees up your time. You can do constructive things instead.
Mm-hmm. I really feel that if I'm going to, instead of complaining, go out and join some. And this is what I tell other people, so I have to tell myself too. Go out and work with a group who's trying to bring about on your local level something good and needed, and let the rest of it give it up or give it over or whatever.
Yeah. Mhm. Well, let's take a look at today's
Sounds like a winning plan.
lesson. It's a good lesson.
I have not seen it. I got up late today and have done nothing, so this is all new.
Well, it's really beautiful. It can be but my gratitude I earn. How does that work? Who should give thanks for my salvation but myself? Well, now that makes sense. And how but through salvation can I find the self to whom my thanks are due? Yeah. I remember when I was thinking about this, I remembered an incident. It was just a private thing when I was in Louisville, Kentucky, and I don't think I'd been there very long, but, by myself. And uh, so naturally encouraging myself day by day. And I had some kind of experience that was really positive, something I had done that seemed to work out really well. And I felt really good about that. And then I started questioning myself. Um, it wasn't, I didn't put it in terms like this, which I would say now, who is it that's feeling good? But that's kind of the essence of my concern. And I ended up actually writing Mother Ruth about it
Hmm.
because I felt a little conflicted about feeling good. Like, was it
No, I
my
mean I'm
effort?
laughing in contrast to what we've learned through the course
Yeah.
about what feeling good means.
So, I felt like I was being prideful, you know, and was it my ego that was being proud? Or was I just enjoying the pleasure of doing God's will? Because it was something that had worked out well, and it was appearance that I had done the right thing. And I was just I felt so good about it. But then I had to question, you know, am I patting my ego on the back? So that was and like you say, this question has more or less been resolved in due course in the last 50 years.
I'm a slow learner too.
Right? And the course has helped tremendously. But that's what it is. It's that the more we work this, the happier we get.
And the course gives us some really criteria that we know if we're unsure of what it is. They have some simple things, if it's of the spirit, if it's in accord with the will of God, we will know that we're more peaceful, we're more centered, we more light. And if we are feeling more suffering about it, then that's a pretty good clue that it's the directions are coming from the ego or the human part that's very concerned only of itself.
Well, it isn't just that, because there we have a lot of this has to do with thinking the world is real.
Yeah, and our bodies are real.
I was walking by, this morning. Well, I had a couple of things happen that were unusual. This guy, I get up to this one main street, just not too far from the house, and there's this guy riding a bicycle up the street. This is like, we're talking 5:30 in the morning, He's riding a bicycle up the street, and he's pulling a trailer, that has his stuff, like he's maybe a houseless person, and he's pulling this stuff, and it's on fire.
It's fire?
Totally on fire, right? And he blocked down, he makes a left and goes up that street with this thing on fire, and is leaving tracks of fire on the street. So I see this guy in a pickup truck coming behind him, and he stops and waits and looks for a long time to see what happens. And I kept on going, and I went a block up, and then went down to the street he turned up and to look and see what happened. Well, he dropped his trailer, and it was sitting in a driveway. This is the industrial area. No problem.
Mm-hmm.
I looked and saw, well, this thing's going to burn itself out, and it's not going to catch anything on fire. And so I kept going, and I saw somebody stop and go over and start looking for the guy. Somebody else pulled up there, in cars. And so I know, okay, well, there's people going to take care of this. And I just continued on my walk. And as I walked along, I saw a fire truck somebody called coming to maybe put out the fire. I thought it's just going to burn itself out. So I wasn't worried about it. But at a younger age, I wouldn't have been so calm. I might have felt like I needed to intervene like these other people did. And I would have stopped and gotten involved.
Yeah, okay. I'm following.
And then continuing walking, I saw this woman who seemed to be really in anguish, another houseless person, just a tear-streaked face, and walked by me. And I I know I would have also thought, and I think this is my ego. So my ego would have, um, stopped and tried to talk to her. Well, she's in a no telling what state, um, but she's working it through. She's having her tears and she's working it out. And there was nothing for me really to do. But it's this idea that this body, my body, is going to get involved with her body and um, act like I'm the helper.
Yeah, I know. As soon as you were telling that story, I was seeing how my ego loves to be the rescuer in a situation like that, and gets all kinds of strokes and acclaim, especially if it's a female. And it always, it's like a dangling carrot. And yeah, it'd be pretty hard for me to intervene in a situation like that, especially when I was younger, and still just know that I'm just there to be truly helpful and for no other reason.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I see what you're saying. It's a little bit more, can be a little bit more dilemma than just feeling good. Yeah, yeah, I see where you're going with this now.
so um, I guess you could call it wisdom gained from experience or whatever. But um, I continue to think about this, what Gary Renard said about Jesus in the book you're reading, how he hardly even noticed bodies anymore.
Yes, that one really stood out in my mind, that he could relate and not get caught in being hypnotized by the human form.
And as I walked along with that thought, I just thought, well, okay, so he's like really living in the real world. He's realizing that the world of causation is in the mind. That's where the cause is of everything we see. And that's where his attention is. And
It's
he's so sensitive
hmm.
that he's walking through the mind. He's a mind walking through the mind. Um, and so he's above the battlefield. He's at the level of cause all the time.
Right. It's like what's it? Thomas's the Gospel of Saint Thomas, is it? I'm
Yeah.
not saying that right.
No, that's good. That's close.
Yeah. And it's like I really saw. I just recently read it, and it hit me different. The kingdom of heaven is all around us, and it's like we don't. It's like a shift in awareness. It has nothing to do with like dying, dropping the body, going into a deep meditation. It's like you're perceiving the unity as you walk around and look at things. That's almost like you could be in that state all the time if you weren't, recreating the world in terms of the ego. And I think Jesus really achieved that, and that's a possibility for all of us.
That's
And
right.
I'm still a little ways from that, but I recognize that's the place to be.
Uh-huh. So things will happen where you see miracles happening right in front of you, around you. And you can just, be grateful.
Yep.
You don't have to, like it says here, who should give thanks for my salvation? I should give thanks. I shouldn't be there thinking I did this, because the I that's giving thanks is not the one that's doing it. It's coming from the self.
Yeah.
That's to whom my thanks are due. That's where my gratitude goes. and that is myself. And the more that I, can feel that gratitude and not personally take credit for things, the more um, I myself is the self.
Yeah, yeah. You know, one of the things I got from Gary Renard's book is the emphasis of the course puts on dissolving the ego is the ultimate thing, because it's not trying to make your experience of the duality better, but what it's trying to do is get you to the place where you're one with the oneness of life altogether.
Yeah.
And I just had a conversation yesterday with an old friend, Rich, who's I knew from Kapalo, and he's also a course student. And he was encouraging me to check out the course in love, which is a modern approach, a newer approach to the course that comes from this woman who's supposed to be channeling Jesus, and it's like supposed to be almost like an improvement on the course. And I had just read about 2 days ago in Gary Renard's book saying that the problem with a lot of these new teachings is that they're not as unrelenting in saying that there's only one reality and everything else is an illusion. And it's not just about trying to live better in the illusion. It's dissolving the illusion altogether, so you have the realization of the self in all that you do. And so it's a non-duality that's you don't want to encourage. You don't want to be encouraging the reality of the dream world. And it's
A
very
course of
easy.
love is for people who don't want to give up their egos.
That's what Gary said. He's very, very, very succinct about that. He's actually a bit dismissive of it.
Oh,
I
I
mean,
am too. I've read that, and and I have close friends, course students who are not only they're studying it, teaching it, the course of love, because um, the thing about the course that people really have a hard time with, the hardest thing maybe for a lot of people, is believing that the world's not real.
yeah, exactly. Nobody wants to really give up the world because there's so many hooks of why you think the world is worth saving, and your energy should go into living, making it a better place. And I've been a course student for forever, and I would say that's the number one temptation, to fall back uh, into the old mind, is how attractive the idea is of having an identity and thinking that the world needs salvation, not that I need salvation in the sense of a shift in the paradigm of what I'm experiencing. And
Even in the face of quantum physics, which is also saying the same thing, that the world is an illusion. The world,
yeah, yeah,
even in the face of that, there are many course students that are, creating their own Course in Miracles, which makes that some kind of metaphor, but not
mm,
real, not,
exactly.
the
There's a
world is
whole
still real. They just, that is their huge stumbling block. That's the, that's what's behind A Course of Love. And
exactly.
so, we, in the order, the idea that the world wasn't real was never offered. And the ego was pretty much used to build the order.
Exactly, exactly, and that's why there was so much trouble when they were, even though we're having a very high level of ultimate teachings. The shadow side of it, it's being motivated through the way the ego looks at the world.
So
Excellent,
I've
excellent,
seen
excellent.
many order priests, teachers who get the Course in Miracles. Start getting into it. They come up against the stumbling block, the world's not real, and they go to the Course of Love instead.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Because
happening a lot.
because why? Because it fits their belief system.
Yeah, it's very challenging, you know. Oh, you weren't really born and you don't die and you're really not who you think you are, and the world that you see is a projection of images created by like like a collective egoic mind. This is very, very, very hard for people to accept. In fact, when we have new people come,
That's why you have a Course of Love, because
yeah,
it's hard for people to accept.
you know, the reason I was able to shift in it because of, you know, the training in the order, the emphasis on experiencing the inner light and the inner self, and coming to realize that's the only reality that really is, and the rest of it doesn't mean it, you know, a damn. But even with all that, it still can be a struggle because I want the world to be real in some sense. I want my identity, and whenever I felt like maybe my physical body was going to go, I could feel this tension and anxiety come up. So it's very interesting how persistent that illusion is, and even with the spiritual gifts that all of us have been given here, it still needs a lot of vigilance of mind not to go back into the thing of making the world real and trying to save the world.
Yeah, for example, in the order, we were taught that we each have a self. There's there are there's individual selves. Everybody has a self, and it's their self, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
Individuality was, you know, a core belief.
Yeah, not only that, it was the hierarchy of, well, there are people who have more authority because they know more and they're more important, and therefore they are the teachers and you are the, you know, Animal Farm. You know what I mean? There was already that division of happening higher, lower, the lower down
Yeah,
people
some
who.
people are more equal than others.
Exactly the Animal Farm thing I'm thinking of. Definitely, you know. And you know, so guess what? You know, even with all this Rosicrucian spiritual initiation, all this stuff, we're still recreating just the same problems of the world because that's not given any recognition. And I remember having a talk with Father Chris Williamson, and I had visited him in 2000 or something. I was in San Francisco and I was trying to look up what the old order was, and and I was asking him about, you know, like the Gnostic fathers and so forth. You know, I was trying to understand the Russian Orthodox thing, and he said that, you know, there's a real rejection of Gnostic thought, and I think now I understand what it's about. It's the threat that the world isn't real,
And that
and
God did not make the world.
what's that?
God did not create the
God,
world.
right. That's another thing that people who have a very religious outlook cannot tolerate. You know, the idea that when we see the world and see the beauty in it,
But if God
whether.
created the world, then God is just riddled with evil.
Exactly, exactly. If you're going to say, "Oh, look, God must have created the world, 'cause look how beautiful the world is," you also have to say, "Oh, if God created the world, look at all the horrible things animals do and eat each other, and terrible things happen, And if that is that the creation of a loving God, that's pretty hard for me to buy. And I'm never happy with the idea. Well, it's a mystery and it's beyond your understanding. And all
Not only that, but even though, and even though we said there is no sin, we just make mistakes. We treated it as if it was real. Sin was real.
yeah,
You
yeah.
need a priest. You go
Right.
confess your sins.
What is absolution of sin? It's making sin real, and you need some kind of heavenly dispensation to erase the sin. It's not so far removed from the same dualistic systems that it's just that it includes a spiritual piece of the inner light and the inner self. But yeah, it's not the highest expression of say what Ramana Maharshi was teaching or whatever.
Okay, so let's put it, so let's just also realize, it was the highest thing we'd found.
Yeah. Oh, I'm appreciative. Look, if I wasn't appreciative, you think I would link up again with the Friends of the Holy Order of Man? I know the gifts I were given, but I know it wasn't the ultimate, and it led to some difficulties for myself and other people.
So it's definitely was a step along the way.
Yes.
And, but
Amen.
it wasn't pure. It wasn't pure. So now we find A Course in Miracles, it looks a lot more pure.
Yes, it does. And
We
it
have,
will get distorted. And actually, I remember sitting in a talk by Ken. He was laughing. Yeah, in maybe a couple of 100 years, it will be the same thing all over again with factions fighting one. He was kind of laughing as how making fun of the idea that the ego will again reassert itself within the Course in Miracles and dissolve the teachings of about the purity of the teachings that the world does not exist, period.
yeah, of course. The ego is just fighting tooth and nail to
Yes,
preserve
it is.
his life and identity. And that's always going to be the case.
I see it in myself. I don't have to see it in other groups. I see it in myself how much there's an adhering to wanting what I'm familiar with in terms of personal identity in the world.
Yeah. So, for example, the word ego. The word ego. Um, there are teachers that will they can't let go of some old definition they have of ego, which equates it with the self.
Mm-hmm.
That word. I'm sure that they don't. So they don't think of. They just don't want to. They don't want to lose that definition of ego. Why can't you just call it self? Why do you want to call it ego? God knows, but they won't let that go. It's such a clear distinction. It's really nice in the way the Course teaches it. And it's, words change and evolve, but no. And so what does that do? It just muddies the water.
Yeah, it's like why the Course didn't use the word soul, because it muddies the water. Are you talking about an individual identity? Or are you talking about the Christ self, and that's a universal experience of unity? What are you talking
Right.
about?
It's too confusing. It's too confusing.
And making the ego real. I mean, there's back doors of making the ego real where people say, well, you got to navigate in the world, and okay, you don't want to be identified with it, but you might want to use it to take care of yourself, blah 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 blah. And the first thing you know, that you're undermining the purity of where the Course is trying to lead us. Even if I don't have that experience of the kingdom of heaven all the time when I'm walking around.
Yeah.
Don't want to undermine the basic understanding of where the Course is leading us. And and it's a toughie, because I know from myself, I don't even have to go with other people's experience, what a tremendous temptation it is to try to function within the world and make the world real.
And change the Course. Just change it. you know.
Yeah, if you don't like it, you change the course teachings to make it more palatable. Yes, and that's what's happening, and I really appreciate Gary Renard's remarks about that, because he's
People are
so
so
right
used to
on.
doing that nowadays.
What's that?
People are so used to doing that. There's a
Mhm.
whole movement to make up your own religion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You take something from this place, you take a little from that place, you put it together, and you get the one that suits you.
Oh, I was doing that
What
before I
kind of
even started spiritual teachings. I would
what
try
kind
to
of
pick and
progress
choose.
is that going to give you?
What's that?
What kind of progress is that?
Oh, it's a joke, but people want to do that because it makes them feel good, quote unquote, feel good. And I know that I'm not condemning other people for doing it because I did that for many years myself.
Yeah.
The shift was realizing that I'm wrong and Jesus is right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the way the course says it. I love it.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. Ken's been, he emphasizes that a lot. Today, he says about our lesson, this continues Jesus' emphasis on the importance of recognizing we have a mind and are not our bodies. In A Course in Miracles, salvation means being saved from my decision to be guilty. I am the one who chose wrongly, and therefore I am the one who can choose correctly. I'm
Amen.
asking my new teacher for help. I am thus grateful to my decision making self for choosing salvation instead of crucifixion.
I only crucify myself. That's a toughie if you really understand how you're choosing just the things that's doing you in, you can only understand that when you really understand what the Course is saying about what is reality and what isn't reality.
Yeah. So, isn't it's such a big thing? We're talking about this lesson, and it's so important. I mean, this is our portal today. It's our gateway into um, non-duality.
Yeah. And you know what? It's the same lesson like we've been doing for the last 3 weeks. It's the same lesson, and it's just another way of saying it and getting in touch with my resistance to it by when I'm walking around in everyday consciousness and forgetting what the Course is trying to show me about how to integrate into the self.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've got a lot to build on here.
Yes, thank God for these teachings. They're great.
Let's take this into meditation and anchor it really well for the rest
Look,
of
I want to say hello to you, Michael McCarthy, and how are you doing before
Hi, Dan. It's
we're
Yeah,
not
been one of
ignoring you.
those.
tell us what happened this morning.
It's been one of those days. I lost track of time.
Uh-huh.
But your discussion has been fantastic. It's been
Okay.
really good.
Well, we had quite a, we went on sometime before you got here, and it's been recorded.
Oh,
I think
great.
I'll save this one. And
It's a
Great.
good one. It's a good one to save.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I would like to say that regarding your discussion and what I know about the teachings of the Course, I just noticed, I've been noticing in relation to Joel Goldsmith that as I read it now, I can't find anything different from what the Course is saying.
yes, and you're
Amen.
probably seeing Joel Goldsmith in a more deeper way, right?
Yeah.
Right, right. Because when he talks about the self, when he talks about forgiveness, when he talks about love and Jesus, it's the same thing as the Course, basically.
Well, feel free to share quotes that that really
Yeah.
strike you. Um, on this page, you know.
And he really pronounces the Advaita thing, you know, the
Uh-huh.
oneness.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I hope that you'll share some of those, um, some of his statements as they strike you, with the rest
Right.
of us course students.
Yeah.
And
But we could call this Joel Goldsmith too, and it would be the same message.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
great to know.
Or it's the same teaching from the east with Ramana Maharshi. I find
Yes.
Advaita teachings is saying the same thing as the course is saying. You know.
Yeah, the only things that sort of can throw you off with that is that the cultural differences. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
But the
And the
content,
emphasis, we have the emphasis on forgiveness as the main practice. And the forgiveness comes about because you realize that all the things you're mad about is didn't really happen anyway.
nothing to forgive, right?
Yeah.
Um, oh, yeah, and also that the part of us that needs to do the forgiveness, the more forgiveness it does, the less it exists.
Yeah. Because you have total acceptance for what is. It's like,
Because there's nothing to forgive,
right.
and
It's like,
there's no one to forgive it. You know.
right. There's nothing to forgive, and nothing bad really ever happened that needs forgiveness. Just like God knows that He doesn't have to forgive anybody. That everything is perfect and all is well, just the way it is. And that's what I like. We mentioned before. You mentioned Byron Katie, being a lover of what is, because whatever is happening, if I can accept it on that total level of how the self accepts whatever is, then I'm free of the karmic entanglement of wanting separation.
I'm not a body, I am free.
Exactly. It's such a core teaching. And it's amazing how resistant on some level I must be, because it's always easy to forget that one.
Coming up in 2 days, that's the lesson on 219. That is the lesson, yeah, all by itself. So
It's almost like it can't be repeated enough that we are not these bodies that we think we are.
very important, yeah. Yeah.
It creates a lot of problems for us.
A very, very core teaching.
Yes, it is a core teaching.
Well, let's have our meditation. Oh, what time is it anyway?
It's 1:45 of my time, so
Oh
that
yeah, well,
means
see, I've
15
got
minutes.
a reading. I'm doing a reading at 10 o'clock, so we better get going.
Yeah, and if you want to do it 10 instead of 15, that's fine too, so you have time.
Okay, here we go, 15.
All right.
few minutes.
No one. And
Mi-
here's
Michael?
Kathleen. Hi, Kathleen.
Just in time for the ending.
Yeah, we're gonna end this meeting. I think what we'll do instead is you guys can just take off, and this will be the new meeting. Actually, no, I'm going to end this meeting and start a new one. So Kathleen, it'll be the same ID, but I'm just ending up a Course in Miracles study group where we're looking at the lessons.
Oh, nice. All right.
Yeah, we just finished a meditation. So
Did I call too soon? I thought we had a meeting at 10.
yes, we do, and we're running a little late, but it'll soon be fresh.
Well, just go ahead and should I just wait? And I'm finishing up my breakfast anyway.
Well, I am going to close this. If you'd like me to give you 5 minutes, I can do
Yeah.
that. Okay,
That's fine.
perfect. Okay, well, let's just carry this self-realization with us throughout the day.
Okay.
All right, great session, and I'm going to reserve my comment because I know you have to start another meeting, but remind me about paradigm shifts as applies to Course in Miracles and Course in Love.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it, but I don't want to hold anything right now.
That's okay. So it's all or nothing. That's the way non-duality works.
Yeah. Yeah, but some people aren't ready for the all. So you
Well,
have
they
to,
want to be the all.
yeah.
But
They're
they're
holding
just
on to it.
confused about how to do it. I mean, they are the all, really,
Yeah.
but it's not the I they're thinking of.
Exactly. It's what I was thought. Okay, I'll take a minute. In science, like you had Newtonian physics, and then Einstein actually came out with a whole different approach, but it didn't make the Newtonian physics wrong.
Yeah.
And people were at a level where certain spiritual teachings is a step that they might need to take
Uh-huh.
before they can do the paradigm shift of what the Course is talking about. So
Yeah.
that's it sort of came to me. It's not making any teaching wrong. It's just making the realization you might be at the level where you need to receive something at the place you can receive it with the intention of what you're doing. And it can be helpful even though it's not the absolute truth. That's what I was trying to say there.
Now, here's another picture. The universe is constantly expanding.
Yes.
Do you want to stay back on square one, or would you like to go further?
Yeah, but for some people, even taking on a lot of the spiritual principles that like the Course talked about, the Water talked about, different people talk about, it's still helpful to start moving into that place of the all. That's the only
Yeah.
thing I'm saying. But for
Above
us,
the battleground.
for me, I know what I'm choosing.
Yeah. Well, it just keeps unfolding. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And I want to thank you. I feel sometimes you're like a hand that reaches out that helps pull me up sometimes when I feel like I'm sinking back down. I love this meeting because it really helps to walk together focused on the purity of the teachings of the Course.
It
I
sure
really love
does.
it.
I'm
It
sure
really
that
helps
it's
me.
helping all of us, so much.
Because I understand how I can, get bogged down in other stuff that is not helpful.
Sure.
It's a good way of putting it.
Of course, for quite a while now, and I still do that too.
Yeah, I know. It's great. It's great.
We can each be ready to offer a helping hand when one of us
Yes.
is bogged down. So anyway, I've got to run.
Me
I'll
too.
see you tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
Love.